Welcome to the Subjective Professor podcast, where we reject coercion and hypocrisy. This is episode 129, and we're going to talk about the presidential debate, which is coming up tonight. And just wanted to go over a couple of things that go through my mind whenever I hear about a presidential debate. Um, and I'll keep it short because I know more people will probably be more concerned with listening to the actual debate and post-debate analysis, which is something that I just listen to as well because I don't listen to the actual debate because it's just kind of disgusting. I actually did watch presidential debates when I was really young. I figured I should get involved in politics, know what's going on, and it was pretty weak, right? Nothing that people said really seemed to matter when it came to post-election life. But I wanted to look first at this idea of debate preparation. Uh, and it's kind of interesting, but I personally wondered if it's kind of like my arbitration prep. So I have an arbitration hearing coming up in July. I met with the lawyers and they said, okay, let's go over the testimony because I have to be my own witness. And so we went through all of the questions, the kind of the process in which it's going to happen. It's sort of like the movies, except we're just going to be sitting around a table. And I just simply have to answer the questions. And he followed up with some surprise questions to make sure that I stay on point, or even just because of the accusations that were made of me. He thinks that the a good defense would be for the judge, the arbitrator, to see my actual personality, see how I respond to pressure and uncomfortable questions. But otherwise, I just simply have to just say what I know, share and answer questions according to how I would answer them if I got them in class. And but I think these days debate prep is more like, okay, if you get this question, this is the way you should say it. It'll appeal to these people. It'll keep those people happy. You won't upset those people, that kind of thing. And so it's more of a game plan. There's a lot of gamemanship there, but and the strategy sort of comes from the desire to appeal to certain voters. Having said that, Jeff Deist of the Mises Institute, formerly of the Mises Institute. I forget what he's into now, but something very ANCAP related. But he said that we live in a post-persuasion society. That is, when we have a debate like this, we're not really trying to persuade anyone because everyone who's tuning in has pretty much made up their minds. It's sort of, I compare it to this idea where if you're looking for advice, how many people do you go to for advice before you make a decision? And everyone in class, whenever I ask that question, they always have different answers, like two, oh, I go to my parents, or I ask my close friends, like two of them. And I always wait for someone to say, because someone does eventually say, you keep asking people until you get the answer that you were looking for. In other words, you already made your decision. You just don't want to be alone in your decision. And so this confirmation bias type thing. And if everything goes sideways, you can just simply say, hey, you and I, we thought that this would be a great idea. So you're not even alone when it comes to, you know, having to live through the consequences. And even better is if you use your parents' advice, right? Because liability, responsibility always goes to the parents. At least that's what a lot of kids believe. And it's kind of interesting because, when you say that, a lot of people have to kind of rethink how they ask other people for advice. So we live in a post-persuasion society. People tune in not really to be persuaded, but really just to affirm the choice that they've already made. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, but that's not kind of the situation and the context that these debates take place. It's sort of like evolution versus creationism debates. Everyone who shows up already has a side. They pick a team, and it's all about, oh yeah, you scored points with this, you scored points with that. It's that kind of situation. So in other words, you're not going to hear tough questions. You're not going to hear questions where that are kind of out of the blue, surprise questions, nor will you hear questions that kind of challenge people's knowledge, right? Or challenge people's principles, right? You're not going to hear a question like, would you lie to the American people if you are in trouble, or if you find an embarrassing detail? Why did you let Julian Assange go free on a deal, and then immediately after he's freed, all of his emails, which he has not yet published, are deleted? Things are taken down from WikiLeaks, which is what happened, right? So why force him to take all those things down? Is it because they were not true? You won't hear tough questions. You won't hear tough questions on the economy, basic supply and demand, business cycle. You won't hear any of these kinds of questions. Instead, you're just going to listen for zingers, people, each candidate trying to play to its base, saying those catchphrases that everyone seems to go crazy about. And so basically it's a sort of a what do you call them? A pep rally for your base. And you're going to say things to comfort your friends, to sort of telegraph to certain people in very powerful positions that you'll take care of them. And so this phenomena brings to mind H.L. Mencken's quote, "Every election is a sort of advanced auction of stolen goods," right? So political candidates, they basically are telling everyone, hey, this is what I'm going to steal for you, right? All that stuff the people you don't like and all those rich people have, yeah, I'll somehow figure out a way to get some of that into your hands. And of course, they don't tell you the process that they're going to use to pull that off. They're going to perhaps feed into the myth that everything that government does for you is free. And so you try to get people to vote for you by bribing them, by promising them, or bribery might not be the word, but for simplicity's sake, they're trying to bribe you. They're making an offer to you so that you will vote for them. If you vote for me, this is what I'll do for you. And so that pretty much is what a lot of these presidential debates are about. And like I said, I watched them when I was, 18 or something like that, and didn't watch again until I was in my 40s because I found out about Ron Paul. And so for the 2012 election, I listened to the debate. Like I didn't know about him in 2008, but in 2011, I stumbled upon him, and I talked about that before in my Journey to Freedom episode, a couple episodes back. And I watched that debate, and it was really interesting. Like Ron Paul did not have to prep, right? All he was doing was answering questions according to his knowledge base, according to his principles, right? So you can't surprise him, because any question that he'll answer, it'll just be according to the principle. What's even better, okay, is that he's not catering to any specific demographic group, right? He's just trying to educate people. He's trying to get people to understand how the economy works, how the country runs, what government actually does, and the functions of these various organizations within the government, the various bureaucracies within the government, like the Federal Reserve. And so he's not trying to win a popularity contest. He's trying to get people to understand how the system works. And, even by his own testimony, he'll say that, just by trying to explain things, to get people to see how things actually work, he became immensely popular, right? So his popularity did not come from him promising things, but his popularity came from the fact that he actually explained things. He told the quote unquote truth, right? A reality that most people never talk about, okay? And so he'll talk about the things that everyone else avoids, like banking. And no matter who is going to be elected, whether it's Biden or Trump, or Chase Oliver, the Libertarian candidate, which seems to be hugely unpopular even among libertarians and people who are in the Libertarian Party. So none of them are talking about the huge banking crisis that the wave that we're sitting on, right? The basically all of the collateral, the assets of banks that are underwater, whether it's commercial real estate, derivatives, home, mortgage equities, all of that stuff, US treasuries as well. Once the interest rates went up, then the value of all of those assets, tanked. And so when people tried to pull out their deposits, there just simply isn't anything in the bank with which they can pay back their depositors, right? And so that's why pretty much every bank in America is bankrupt, right? Because they're holding on to those treasuries as their assets. And so no one's talking about that, the coming recession, depression, call it whatever you will, bad economic times. And so what we do need is another Ron Paul type candidate, someone who's willing to speak the truth, right? And tell everyone, level with everyone, and tell them what is coming and what we need to do. Argentina was able to do this with Javier Milei. When we have a candidate like Javier Milei, I'll be hanging on every speech that he gives, right? So, or she gives, whatever the person might be. And so as you listen, you might like some of the things that were being said at tonight's debate, but the reality is, who's coaching them? What are they really going to do once they get into office? Who are all these nameless, faceless people pulling their strings, which obviously we know exist with Biden, because he's not really in control of his life at this point. And then Trump as well. Who is pulling all of his strings? Sorry, I had a little interruption there. So we just had at the very end too. So look out for that. Look at what people are saying, how they analyze the debates. Like, one of the things that really disgusted me in the 2012 debates was that people didn't care about what they said. They talked about the appearance, right? That they looked presidential, so vote for that person. It's largely disgusting, right? Very superficial. One last thing. There was this experiment made where people were shown two pictures of the two candidates in largely local elections. And so people were shown the two pictures and they were asked who won the election. And over 70% of the time, they guessed correctly, not knowing anything about the two candidates, their platforms, but just looking at their pictures. And that kind of tells you that appearance of the candidate has a lot to do with who wins. When you make it between Trump and Biden, well, I guess beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. But in any case, I'll talk to you tomorrow, and I hope you have a good time either listening or ignoring the debate tonight.